In this discussion, which we will refer to as Dream Interpretation 101, Time Traveling in a Lucid Dream Part 2, I'm going to break down and explain my interpretation of my dream from Time Traveling in a Lucid Dream Part 1. For those of you who have not listened to Part 1, I would strongly urge you to go back to that segment to hear the full details of that dream before I get into its actual interpretation right here and right now in this segment, Part 2. The theme of my dream is clearly the past, present, and future. As you've heard me mention many times in other discussions and in my ebook, it is of the utmost importance that one recall his or her waking thoughts and whereabouts from the day before the night of a dream. This is because something from your previous day, a thought or action, triggers the implications of the dream in the subconscious mind. As I stated previously, the theme of this particular dream is past, present, and future. Here are my daily whereabouts which triggered this dream. The day before the dream, early that morning, I was listening to an Alan Watts lecture called Living in the Present. This short lecture covered the idea of the psychological characteristics of mentally and emotionally living in the past, present, and future in one's thought patterns and processes. Later that day, my brother-in-law called me to wish me a happy Father's Day. During our 2-hour conversation, somehow he and I got onto the subject of people living in the past and how in today's society the average person gets so caught up in their past that they can't function properly in the present. And we're also wondering how it is that others can get so caught up in planning for the future that they never learn to enjoy life in the present moment or in the present day. I believe with 100% certainty that these two thoughts and events that day triggered this dream. The significant dream symbols to address are my old crush Christy, the house party and bar scene, and finally the dead woman found in the end of the dream inside my car. So let's start with what Christy means in this dream. Christy is simply an aspect of myself. She is not really Christy, as if I were to really travel back in time, or it's not her psyche or anything like that. She is an actual aspect of myself. By aspect, I mean a personal trait of thought that I hold personally, which has the potential to be a past or present attitude or complex. The extremely important point to grasp here is because this is a lucid dream, Christy has both unconscious and conscious symbolic implications and meaning in this dream. For those of you listening who I may be losing or I may have just completely confused at this point in my explanation, that's okay. Don't worry. I am more than welcome to respond to any comments you have on our website or on our YouTube or below requesting clarification to give you a more elaborate explanation of the concept and the ideal behind that, the psychology of that. So back to the dream. Christy signifies conscious attitudes or complexes that I personally carry. These conscious attitudes revolve around being infatuated with, or quite literally, stuck on my past. This is suggested by the fact that I had a huge crush on her during this particular time period in real life. Subconsciously, Christy represents a way of thinking or state of mind that I currently hold that is the complete opposite of being fixated or infatuated by the idea of living my life in the present. This being signified by her partying and hanging out with friends while not seeming to be too concerned with my possibly being from the future. It's important to also note that Christy wasn't concerned with nor wanted to psychologically accept my telling her that she was from the past. Simply put, she in the dream wasn't willing to accept my claims about the future or my suggesting that she was currently living in the past. She was mentally fixated on the present moment and the present time, and very much in the dream was living it up in the present moment. Those ideas behind that are a character or characteristic of my own subconscious psyche. She, towards the end of the dream, another man completely distracted her, ruining my chances of convincing her that she was living in the past and that I was from the distant future. Again, this sequence suggests a developing subconscious willingness on my part dedicated to learning how to live more in the present versus the past or the future. At the dream's end, while walking down an alley leaving the bar, I approach a woman who finds the body of a dead woman in my car. I will admit, this dream scene had me stumped for a while on its possible interpretations. Stumped for about a day. My best educated guess is that, my best educated guess is as follows. Death in a dream means change, or shall I say transition. Change in thoughts and transition in one's life symbolically are actually really one and the same. This is because they each require a new way of thinking or different state of mind, typically foreign to that of the dreamer's usual thought patterns. I believe that the dead woman signifies previously fixed ways of thinking that I had prior to the day I had this dream that I was trying to change or liquidate from my way of thinking, so to speak, mentally. Perhaps learning to live in the present and not getting caught up in one's prospective future to the extent of not living your life presently, or being so caught up in one's past that previous events, which can't be changed anyways, destructively shape and guide one's future. In summary, the dream shows that when one is totally fixated on his past or infatuated with one's future, he cannot really truly exist in the present. I believe that psychologically, one cannot live in the past, present, and future fully. He has to choose one. In the dream, Christy chose to live in the present. Therefore, it was impossible for her to accept a future and past and maintain a reliable present state of being as she did so in the dream. In the dream, when she completely dismissed me altogether, I was in limbo, so to speak, and theoretically, in the dream, didn't exist in the present. This is because I couldn't get back to what I defined as the present. I wasn't willing to accept the past I was stuck in, which inevitably meant I effectively had no future. I believe this to be the deep emotional feeling of surrender and failure I had in this particular dream. It literally resembled the emotions I would assume one would have if he or she were given some news that effectively crushed their hopes or possibility of a future. This dream taught me that perhaps it's time for me to begin to learn to live in the present moment more often. Not necessarily to the extent of partying like it's the year 2000, but by learning to create a balance between the three, past, present, and future. This dream taught me the importance of learning to steer clear of allowing the past to define me as well. I believe that this is the perfect time to mention a conversation that I had with my wife the day before I had this dream. Her and I had an in-depth discussion about together learning to enjoy life more while working on the many endeavors her and I are currently involved in, which are more so related to planning the success of our future. It taught me that planning for the future is of importance. However, it is of even greater importance to live in the present, realizing that in actuality, the present moment is all you ever truly have. After all, it's entirely possible that one can spend his entire life planning for a future he may never see. One last point I would like to make is that while watching the Alan Watts lecture the day before the night of this dream, he explained that one cannot exist mentally and psychologically in the past, present, and future. He can only truly exist in one or the other fully. I believe this lucid dream to be a profound example of this wise concept. Thanks again for listening to this dream interpretation, and I hope that this was very insightful. If any of you have any questions about the dream or its interpretation, please feel free to comment below. And again, thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.